Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of Midweek Matters, joined as always by Charlie White. It has been a big week of buy round.
It's been a very big week of buy round. Josh Mansour started off headlines left, right and centre. We almost didn't do this recording today as well because I left the hard drive at home.
Yeah, you did.
So this is about an hour delayed.
Yeah, well, if I was responsible for the hard drive, I'd always have it with me. But
Yeah, always. You take it everywhere with
everywhere
you.
I go. Everywhere we go, people want to know
Where's
the hard drive? In the car.
It has been a big week. And I will actually say this. I think Josh Mansour's copped a bit of criticism from the SEM Breakfast Show.
Yeah.
Which I thought was strange. And it told me that they hadn't really listened to it and took it out of context because they said that he was basically piling on Jason Demetrio.
No, and I've listened to some comments from them today, and I think a little bit of a misunderstanding. They spoke about timing. The timing was pure chance. That's all it was. It was last Tuesday. We had Josh Mansour on, and after the interview, I remember you saying, "Look, if Souths don't win, because we were due to release it on the Sunday, if Souths don't win, this is going to be a talking point."
Yeah.
And Souths didn't win on Thursday. They lose to Brisbane, and it became a talking point.
Yeah.
And then I think what added to the situation was the dropping of Lachlan Ilias. So it's going to create headlines. Look, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether they agree with Josh or not. That's his experience. It is something that a lot of footballers go through. But for me, even... talk of Lachlan Ilias, Latrell Mitchell, Jackson Hastings, a lot of coaches, they deal with the immediate and they're not really that interested in the long game because they want, like I say this, they tell you what you want to hear versus what you need to know. And that sometimes you crave honesty. Everybody in every walk of life thinks they want honesty and they probably need that. But in the moment, to get the best reaction, is sometimes the coach will butter you up a certain way to keep you happy, keep your spirits high. You don't affect the other members of the group. Because I've seen it a number of times where players will be disgruntled after an honest conversation with a coach and will act in a way that doesn't help the immediate, but then later down the track, years go by, we'll look back and go, well, you know what, he was right, and I accept it now. But when you're trying to, with coaches and organisations under so much pressure, they're not playing the long game with individuals. So they tell people what they want to hear, or they'll tell them mistruths, or not to keep their morale up and keep them thinking that they've got an opportunity, but also don't go and be bitter towards the group as well. It's just how it works. In an ideal world, you get your truth, but we don't always work in an ideal world. We work in a world that you need results yesterday.
But really, like, if you don't deal with the situation, Jimmy, in the moment, it ends up creating a bigger situation for yourself down the track. You're always better off just being upfront with someone, being honest with me.
No, I know, Charlie. I know that, but in professional sport, it doesn't always work like that because coaches are under so much pressure. They just want to try and make everyone happy.
But that's not what you
can't make everyone happy.
But that's not what you hear from the top coaches in the game. You don't hear these situations. And I think Demetrio is an incredible coach. And I think he's going to work out really well through him. I think he's a fantastic bloke as well. But the part of the slideshow that Josh Mansour spoke about, we're not even being told he was getting released. That's not something that's good enough at an NRL level. But I don't think that's just Jason Demetriou's fault. I think the CEO should be responsible for that as well. Because
there's a retention and recruitment committee whose job is it to deliver that message. I think it's probably the coach, but let me tell you this for a fact. Josh Mansour isn't the first person to find out via a video or a last game of the season announcement on a public stage that they're no longer going to be at that football club for next year. I've seen it happen. I've witnessed it happen, and players be in a state of shock like, I didn't know I was going. Oh, like nobody's told me, but they're being presented with a jersey or their wife with a bouquet of flowers, and it's like, oh, this is awkward because whether it's oversight from the coach or it's not on their, top of their to-do list, like it's an ugly side of professional sport. And for me, that's what it showcased. Like, people think like and no coach is perfect. You speak about some coaches preferring honesty. No coach gets it right 100% of the time to 100% of the people. So, but I think for me, it showcases a bit of an ugly side of professional sport that it can be. It can leave you in a position where you exit like, what has just happened here? And how many times do we hear stories of players have promised contracts? I know I'm not going to name the player, but I know a current active player that was, told they were going to be renewed at a certain club, and it's coming. We're just working through. Was led along the path, and the offer was then pulled. It was because of a number of different circumstances. Now, this is one of the most respected coaches in the game at present, but we hear these stories and it happens. It actually happens, and it's a side of professional sport that I think, for all the glitz and the glamour and the glory, there's part of it that can be, you get treated as a player, you're a commodity. Some people, I've heard someone, a former teammate of mine, describe himself as, well, I'm just a piece of meat. And that's how it can be sometimes.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's Mansour's story.
Yeah.
And that's what the point of that Sunday show is, to hear people's story.
Yeah, exactly.
And so was not meant to be an attack on Jason Demetriou. It was not meant to be an attack on South Sydney. It purely was chance. And that's a fact.
It is. And it, like you say, it's Mansour's story.
Yeah. And it was great to hear. I thought he was a fantastic chat, and he's really entertaining guy. On South Sydney, though, and everything that has happened over the last few days, it just keeps getting worse and worse for them. To be honest, if their crisis management team is butchering this, and the Latrell Mitchell thing where he's hopped on Triple M and sworn, he swears. Who really cares that he sworn? I don't think people actually care that he swore. I think fans are more impacted by the second half of that interview where he spoke about his 100th try and how he was feeling good. I think that's more what people cared about. But then South Sydney's take to be like, the issue is it's being filmed.
Yeah.
Let's go and complain to the NRL about the interview being filmed. That shows that they've got no real idea about how to deal with the situation going on, because now they've just created an extra 2 days of headlines about South Sydney.
So I'm going to jump to something a little bit later, but for South Sydney, their management of this, I think that just puts, a place that I work at, Triple M, offside with South Sydney. They've been now restricted on their filming. It seems petty.
Yeah.
If there's no camera there, it's still going to be a story.
Yeah, of course.
You're just not going to have the visuals. So,
well, this is what would have happened. I can tell you what would have happened if the interview wasn't filmed. It would have been a picture, and it would have been the audio played out as a reel, and it still would have gone everywhere, and it still would have ended up in journalists' hands, and it still would have been reported on, and lots of people would have heard it.
Yeah, 100%. So how does South Sydney deal with this? It's going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult. You've got one of the leading players in the game, and I spoke about it yesterday on 360, and I think it is a South Sydney issue, not an NRL issue. I think it's something South need to address. I think we fall into that trap a little bit too much at the moment. It's like, well, we've got an integrity unit. They need to deal with it. This is, for me, I'm okay with South's handling this. NRL, it's not really damage control. People are talking about the NRL, so they're probably not too fussed. It makes Souths look bad more than anything, I think. So Souths need to address the issue. I'm thinking back to my time with that infamous Good Friday game, 2015. Was involved in the issue with South Sydney, Adam Reynolds, referee, trainer, fans then throwing things onto the field at the match officials, something that I look back at and I really wish I could have my time over again. That said, that incident and some of the advice and the training and the reframing and the new style of behaviour that I was going to try and implement changed the player I was. And not necessarily for the better. So I was the captain of the club at that time, and some people were calling for the captaincy to be stripped from me, and probably rightly so. And I had an understanding that there were elements of the club that wanted to remove it from me because of that, and I had people going to bat for me. That didn't happen, but fundamentally I knew, like, well, I had to sort of change my way, but it changed my natural instinct. I had this thing at the back of my mind to be like, oh, I need to watch how I am, because now I know everyone's watching me. And this is different because that was an action on the field versus Latrell off the field. But for me, Latrell's interview, it was passionate. It was a bloke that really cares about his football team. Because I don't think a person that doesn't care, he says, oh, look, I don't care.
I scored behind a try.
Yeah, he said that, but he said, oh, I don't care about that, I'm swearing. But I think he's a winner. I think he does care about his football team. I think he cares about the shit situation that Souths are in. Sorry for swearing, everybody. I think he cares about the rubbish situation that South Sydney are in. And I think he wants them to do better. But just be very careful how you handle this, because I don't know if I was ever quite that same player after that day, because I couldn't revert to type and I had to be consciously aware, and that took away elements of my play that I think were hallmarks of how I used to be, and subconsciously I was tapping into things and trying to not be that type of person anymore.
You needed that intense emotion to inspire you to do the things you did in the field.
And almost a bit of a F you to everybody else.
Yeah,
like,
that anger. You needed that anger.
Yeah, that bit. And like, I don't care if you like me, if you don't like me, I'm going to call someone from South Sydney a shit house. I'm going to go after the trainer. I'm going to be in the referee's face because this is just me and I don't care. I like Latrell's line, I don't care what you think of me. I'm just here and I'm being, and I don't care about the role model issue. I'm just being me. So it's very interesting how South Sydney manages, and if they actually want Latrell to change, because be careful with what comes with change. You might think we want this polished person in the media. Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't. It's just something that's worth thinking about.
I know what you're talking about. I actually worry that Latrell Mitchell might already be on a similar path that you were on, though, because that incident a few years ago where he hit Joey Manu in the face and fractured his cheekbone. Manu was out for the rest of the year. I don't know if Latrell's ever been the same player since then, because he was a guy who bullied the opposition and dominated them and got in their face and was aggressive, and that he got so much criticism about that Joey Manu incident. I don't know if he's had that same
especially in
intensity
defense,
on the field.
Like, I'm going to whack you and I don't give a shit what happens to you.
Yeah.
And even if it's on one of my mates.
And he was so criticised for that. People were calling him to be rubbed out for like 10 weeks, extreme amounts of time.
Charlie, you could be right. And this is some of the personality types that excel in our game. And they've been that way their whole life. And then, like, I'm a very difficult person to understand. And I imagine Latrell's quite a difficult person to understand. And just be careful how much you want to alter these people. That said, it has reminded me of a couple of cracking incidences of when coaches have sworn, and two from Harry Redknapp.
Oh, he's brilliant.
So there's one interview, he's on Sky. I think he's on Sky or BBC, and like the interviewer calls him a wheeler dealer, like in the transfer market. He uses the F-bomb. Like, fume, and then the interviewer's like, oh, don't be like that, Harry.
Yeah. I mean, you've made your name as a wheeler and dealer. There's not been much wheeling and dealing.
No, I'm not a wheeler and dealer. No, fuck off.
Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that.
But there's another one at the training ground. He gets hit by a ball, and he's like fuming about getting hit by this ball. And he's like, asking this player, like, what are you doing? He's like, you were aiming for the goal and you hit me? He's like, you got some fucking brains, ain't you? And he's interviewing. And he turns back to the interviewer and the interviewer asks a question and he's like, he just can't get over it. And he's like, yeah, it should be a good game this weekend. And he goes, no wonder he's in the fucking reserves.
Harry Anderson's done a groin.
Still got control even when you're not looking.
You kicked that over here? Huh? What? You try to kick it in the goal and you hit me? There's some fucking brains, ain't you?
Sorry, Harry, just the last word then on Wolves. It's a big game, a game at Molineux, a big crowd. It's a big match for you.
Yeah, it's a big match. No wonder he's in the fucking reserves.
It's pure, like, emotion. Again, who is Harry Redknapp? He's a Cockney geezer who prides himself, who's not going to be put down or labelled as a wheeler dealer. He's fuming at someone that, he's doing a pitch side interview and someone clips him with a ball. But I don't know. I think sometimes there's funny sides of people swearing, especially on the TV.
I agree, and I don't think anyone listening to this really cares about swearing too much. I don't think many footy fans care about swearing. Everyone does swear in their day-to-day life, but talking about how South Sydney managed this situation, I don't think they are managing it correctly.
No.
I think they are letting Latrell Mitchell probably be treated a lot better than other players in certain situations, as he probably should be. He's one of the highest paid players, one of their best players. But I do think maybe that is causing ripple effects at the club for other issues. But that's just one issue at South Sydney. I mean, if you look at some of the decisions made by their hierarchy over the last few years, it's not a club that's been managed extremely well. They decided to get rid of Adam Reynolds, which it's basically been a downhill trajectory since he left. It was grand final when they finished the year after 6th, and then they missed the top 8 last year. So it's going that way since Adam Reynolds left.
Okay.
They lost Joseph Suaalii to the Roosters.
Yeah.
Yes, Suaalii put some demands in, but that was one of the best young players in the game. You lose him to your rival. Mm-hmm. They were unable to convince Anthony Seibold to stay at the Rabbitohs. So that's the power brokers sitting down with him and going, hey, this is the vision of the club. The Broncos were able to take him off them, even though it worked out better for them getting Wayne Bennett. It's still a loss. They wanted to keep Seibold and they lost him. It's a lot of things are happening where they're not winning, and I think that's probably a concern. Like that side of things is a concern.
Yeah, I think you could be onto something. For me, their issues are defensive. Like, you take you put Adam Reynolds in that team, take him out. I don't know. I actually think Reynolds a really good defensive halfback. He doesn't get enough credit for that, like the way he spooks out of the line.
I think that he's a leader, though.
Yeah, he's a leader.
And maybe they need leaders like him.
Yeah, but...
If you just look at what he's done with that Broncos group going up there, they were a team that lacked leadership.
They were a very young team.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But, I mean, South Sydney doesn't have many clear leaders. Like
Murray?
Cam Murray, but he's quite a quiet guy.
I think, and obviously we're going to preview the games, but their star signing, Jack Whiting, comes back in. Like, that's massive. They've still got some issues around the middle of the park, which I don't think they've quite figured out just yet. And defensively, they leak too many points.
And, I mean, that's why I thought you spoke about it on 360 last night or Tuesday night, where Lockie Ellis, like... They're looking for they've dropped him, but really they've not really solved the issue there. Because I mean, you look at like that defensive play in Vegas where he chased Saab down.
Yeah.
So
some of the chatter around they need an organizer. They need someone to dictate. Like, what's Hawkins thinking with 40,000 at Allianz? First game of NRL in a long time. Like, do you think he's going to have the ability to dictate the play, not make errors? I would be very surprised if Walker doesn't move to half and Whiten into 6.
Oh, you think this is just a bit of smoke and mirrors that Hawkins going to play? Okay.
Yeah. But I could be wrong, but that's just my personal opinion. I think the advantage of Jack Whiten in the centres is they shore up one of those edges where they have been a little bit leaky. They're coming up against a 5-day turnaround for Roosters. The centres of Swalihi and Joey Manu, that's a very good centre partnership. So whichever side, whoever's on, you're going to have your hands full. But that's just personally what I'd do.
In their defence, well, they have had some injury issues as well. Jair and Campbell Graham are two of their best players.
Yeah,
Campbell Graham's out until like round 20, so it's good that Wyden is back. But another club, Jimmy, the Newcastle Knights, who have started very slowly, 0-2, and they've decided to drop Jackson Hastings. And the talk was that Jackson Hastings refused to train with the New South Wales Cup team. That's complete bollocks, as far as my understanding is. It was a massage and a swimming day, and he was told, "Oh, if you don't want to do this, it's all good, mate. You can go home." It was an optional massage swimming session. There was no New South Wales Cup training that day.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is how things get washed up in the media cycle. For me, again, I said the same thing yesterday. It speaks to a larger, like Jackson Hastings being dropped after 2 games, going so close against the Cowboys, a game really they should have won, and they had a great opportunity to win. If they win that game, I don't think this happens. So, and I don't think Hastings has been that bad. So,
Jack Cogger's a good player as well.
Jack Cogger's a really good player, and you can see how and why O'Brien has made that change and some of the benefits of having Cogger in the team. But whether or not this has been coming or this is a reaction, look, coaches are under immense pressure, and some more than others. So all the teams have started the season 0-2. The Bulldogs, they've not made any unforced changes. So that says to me a couple of things. Coach Geraldo, for the most part, likes what he sees, and he can see the penny starting to drop and know that they're not that far away. But also, there's not the same level of pressure on him as there is on a guy like Jason Demetriou. So Jason Demetriou knows he's under pressure, and he's probably thinking like, shit, what do I do? I need to spark something because it's just not happening right now. So I need to make a change. Yes, Jack comes in, but I've got to make a drastic change where Geraldo isn't in the same predicament as Demetriou. So he is afforded a little bit more time with, selections. And the Dogs are a club that could make changes due to their depth. You look at Cherry, you look at people like Turpin, you look at Liam Knight has come in, but
that was because of a HIA.
Yeah, that's
though.
the HIA. So you look at those change. You look at Crichton maybe going to fullback.
I love how you've turned this into a let's talk up the Doggies from a Knights issue into let's talk up the Doggies for a few minutes. Because we've got Doggies on the run, and we'll get to them later on.
Yeah, all right. Well, so the Knights with Jackson Hastings, it's bloody unfortunate for Jackson.
And he might get back in the team.
He likely will, but it's sometimes don't let the truth get in the way of good story.
Yeah, and I feel just in Jackson Hastings' defence, he does cop a lot of criticism, particularly about his personality. It always becomes very personal with him for some reason. And this is poor reporting, in my opinion, that you come out and write something like this when it's not true. He's not refused to train. It actually paints him in a really bad light.
Yeah.
That a player, of his standard would refuse to train.
Yeah, you don't want that tag.
No.
And if that's not true, then I think he deserves an apology.
Yeah, particularly because say things play out and he might have to look for a new club. So you don't know. Like just if Jack Cogger and Tyson Gamble kill it in the halves and they go Jackson Hastings, you're no longer required. You need to look for a new club. This would be a big mark on him if he's refused to train.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's preview the round though, Jimmy.
Let's do it,
because it is going to be a really, really good contest. Round 3 kicks off with a premiership rematch. Yeah. However, sadly, no Payne Haas and no Adam Reynolds for the Broncos against the Panthers.
Yeah, and no Fisher Harris for the Penrith Panthers either. So, look, I think when Payne Haas was originally named, I had the Broncos, but now I think the tide turns and it goes to the Penrith Panthers. Brisbane were left a lot of points out there against South Sydney as well. I think that's important to note. But I just think that the Panthers at home should have enough It's interesting some of the narratives being spoken about as well. Taylor May has had a post on his Instagram basically repeating what Jerome Luai had said. So it looks as if Taylor May could be moving on to Pastures U for next year. So interesting to see where he lands. So talk of Roosters and talk of Dragons.
Okay.
But I think all the May brothers have basically said we're coming together. Obviously, one of the May is already at the Roosters. Looks like he's going to be re-signed. Terrell May, Taylor May, quality centre. The Roosters losing a couple of centres. It's sort of that's where it's all things are heading.
Yeah.
But no, I think Panthers great performance with the ball last week. Couple of uncharacteristic defensive issues. The dive over from dummy half from the hooker Lussick, and then just Brown on an edge was a concern. So that's something that I can't envisage repeating itself. So I'm going to go with the Panthers on this one.
What did you make of Kevy Walters not letting anyone use the word Panthers? Is what he did in Origin with the coach whisperer. He's brought back that tactic.
So what's he said? Don't mention the grand final.
Yeah,
or don't mention. He said he's basically not talking
about the grand
final.
final. Yeah.
Look, I get it because it would bring up a lot of demons, but you know the Penrith Panthers boys are going to be mentioning it. Like they should, going to Penrith, and Sports Ground, they love that, and they love the sweet Caroline and all the singing.
Yeah.
If I was Penrith Panthers, I'd be playing Didn't We Almost Have It All?
Yeah,
or like love songs about like Big Break. Didn't we almost have it all? Like every time the Panthers score, just rubbed in, and they'll soon be reminded of it.
Imagine if Brisbane are say up 20-12, and then the Panthers start coming back into a score a try 2018. They're blowing it again, lads. They're blowing it again.
Yeah. It's got they gone. The Reds got and these are sort of some of the stupid things that happen on a field. But I've got to assume that the Broncos, as a football club, have addressed what happened in last year's grand final. They have to, because if they haven't, I said this before and I mean it. You need professional help to get over something like that. This is like your lifelong dream.
Yeah, and
you had it, and it was over, and you lost it. Like, that is a difficult thing to overcome. It's very difficult. I don't want to equate it to some severe things that happen in people's lives, but we know, and I know what it's like as a footballer, what you put on a pedestal, what you value, and to have something so close and then to lose it, it's a shitty feeling.
There's almost a bit of PTSD with it.
There is, and there could well be.
Also, just quickly on the Broncos before we move to the next game, obviously Reynolds and Haas are out this week. If you're the Broncos, you're hoping they're back soon because your next two is Cowboys and the Storm. Yeah,
I think they can... you don't want to rush Reynolds.
No. Or Haas. You want them both.
I think with Haas playing in the middle, it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
Like you can... and he's younger, so you're not like, oh, shit, this could happen again. But with Renault, he's...
and it was an aggravation of an already existing knee injury as well.
You want him
for Reynolds.
You want him. You want to quadruple check. Everything is all the boxes have been ticked 4 or 5 times, right? With definitely, because the last thing you want is him coming back and then re-aggravating it, making it worse.
Second game then is the Warriors and Raiders, Friday 6 o'clock. No wins for the Warriors.
And
however,
2 for the Raiders.
I know, surprising. I actually think you're wrong about the Warriors though. You take that you had at the start of the year.
Oh, yeah?
I think they look like they've got the qualities to be a top 8 team.
Okay. I don't disagree with you.
They've been impressive in parts.
Yeah. And they should have beat the Storms in Melbourne.
Yeah, and arguably they had a 12-point lead at home against the Sharks. They really could easily be 2-0.
Yeah, but they're not.
Yeah, they're not.
Both know. But yeah, no, I agree. And part of me is thinking I've got the wrong call, but I guess time will. those are the easier games to get up for. This is a tricky game for the Warriors. So you have two performances that you should be 2-0. You're not. And you come up against a team that are 2-0, but you're thinking, well, we're a lot better than these guys. And you can fall into a trap of underestimating them. And you know that. So Canberra in rounds 1 and 2 so far have completed at 90%, like very high completion. Their forward pack is there or thereabouts with the best in the competition at this current moment. Play a very simple game plan. So, yeah, don't just write off the Raiders. I think the Warriors will win, but this is, for me, this is the type of game on who prepares the best mentally and doesn't underestimate or overestimate the opposition is going to get the victory. But I think that it's as simple as if the Warriors play like they have been, they should have enough to beat the Raiders.
Yeah, and Wade Egan's name, which is a big in for the Warriors.
Massive. He is such a good player. I think originally from Sydney, moved over there. I had heard a murmur that he wants to come back, but the Warriors need to keep him. They are a beyond different team when he's on the field versus not.
Big call as well by Ricky Stewart to bring Whitehead into the starting team for Zach Hoskins, because Zach Hoskins has been one of their best to start the year.
He has, but it obviously Elliott has earned his ability to walk straight back into that team based off his past 8-10 years at the Raiders. So it's unfortunate for Hoskins because it's one of them. Oh, what can I do? What have he asked the question of the coach, why are you dropping me? It's nothing you've done, pal. It's just Elliott's earned this. So it's unfortunate for him, but it's just part of the dance.
And then we move to the late game on Friday, which is the match of the round. There's a lot riding on this. Sydney Roosters against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And it's Jared Weir-Hargrave's 300th.
Yes.
And it's also it feels like a monumental game for South Sydney already. Like they have to win it.
I don't know if we're venturing into the have to win it category.
It feels like that, honestly. Yeah, it feels like that already.
But again, the reality of it's not have to win.
No.
There's public and media speculation like, if this could be 0-3, JD can... It's not in that category just yet. Like, look at who South Sydney have played to start the year.
Yeah, two contenders, Broncos and Manly. No, I think Manly are a contender. I think everyone thinks that now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think people are realising that. So you go, nah. They probably started the season against three teams that will definitely be playing playoffs and maybe one or two in the top 4 as well. So difficult start for Souths. I think their backs against the wall. We're going to see what that South Sydney team are made of. We're going to really see what they're made of in this game. They've had a long turnaround. They finished Thursday in Brisbane. This is 8 days later versus the Sydney Roosters coming off a 5-day turnaround. They got pummeled at Manly. They had no possession. It was a dogfight for them. They scrapped their way to stay in the game, but they'll be very tired. 5-day turn for them. Couple of changes. Siwa Wong drops out, which... natural for a young back row, really like what he's about. Angus Crichton comes into the 17. Speaking to a couple of people who were at that New South Wales Cup game, said he was by far and away the best player. So positive signs for them, and maybe the fact that it is a 5-day turnaround, he comes back in. But don't discount just how much that could play a part. The turnarounds here and the fact that the Roosters got beaten to a pulp against Manly, but kept on hanging in there, which is credible and can keep you in the fight, but you pay a price sometimes the week later. Believe it or not, sometimes it's better to just lay down and die and let the click, because then you're not making the game play is reduced. If you start spending time behind your sticks and Manly put on a clinic and run riot, you're deflated, but you're fresher. But the Roosters got battered, and they had to do a lot of work in that game to remain in the fight. So that could, it will play a part. I think the Roosters will just about have enough though, and I think it'll be a tight one. if I could predict anything, I reckon there'll be a couple of sin binnings. I reckon I can feel this one blowing
Absolutely,
up.
there will be.
Bubbling.
Victor Radley front and centre.
Yeah, I can think.
Jared on his 300.
Yeah. It wouldn't be. It's got a milestone game for Jared not to have a yellow would be criminal.
I think if you look at the middles in this game, I just think that's probably where the Roosters win. If you look at that, Jared Ray-Hargraves, Lindsay Collins, Tyrrell May, who has looked brilliant in the first couple of weeks, and
White,
yeah.
What an introduction he made on for a team that was struggling to get any go forward. He's a player. Like Roosters have got some great young players. He is a player.
Because you look at Totola, Moali, who we've got on the bench, we've got Sean Kepi, Tom Burgess. It is definitely not the same level that the Sydney Roosters have.
No, it's not bringing the same level of impact.
Jared's 300th game. He's one of only, I think, 6 props in the NRL to ever played 300 games. You would have gone up against him countless times.
I wouldn't agree with that statement. Countless, but
well, yeah,
I could probably go and find them and be able to count it.
Appreciate that. The on those occasions that you played him, did you just love versing him?
I don't know about love. It was challenging. It was like, well, it's on. Like, put it that way, it was on. And he's a horrible bastard. Like, especially to tackle. Like, he just, awful person to try and contain. But he was the type of player that made you train hard because you knew he was one of the opposition. So, credit to him for what he's done. Like, 300... when you consider the way he plays in terms of both injuries and suspensions.
Yeah, he's probably lost about 60, maybe 100 games there.
Yeah. Probably not 100 again.
Stickler.
Stickler for this. There's something actually I want to bring up with you, Charlie, that I forgot to at the top of the show. But no, massive congratulations to Jared. I enjoyed the battles. I enjoyed having to stand up. He's a lot bigger than I am as well, so that was... confronting. Facing the hacker against someone like him is like, fucking hell, we are on here. So, huge congratulations to Jared. I think what he's done for that football club at the Roosters, is remarkable.
And you got the Roosters in a tight one.
Yes, the energy battle is going to be vital. Roosters will be, their tanks will be lower. Roosters in a tight one, but just... funny on the stickler thing.
Here we go.
You said something to me. I can't remember the play we were talking about.
Well, if you can't remember it, it's not going to be a very interesting story.
So player X.
Yeah.
You go, he's really found his feet.
Luke Brooks, maybe at
Man.
Man.
He's really found his feet. And I just thought, imagine that just being like...
that was the issue all along.
You know what? They're at the bottom of my ankles. Fucking hell, why didn't I know that?
See,
I found... hide and seek. Found you. Yes, I can play again.
See, for a man who hates, is a stickler and hates like very important words, I feel like you use sayings all the time.
Do I?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you keep tabs
I'm just
on my
tracking
saying.
now. I'm going to track your saying.
You start tracking my
You're
saying.
tracking what I'm saying. I'm going to track what you say.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It gets me in this frame of mind watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, brilliant show! I haven't seen a new season yet. Is this the new season you're watching?
So the reason I say that is because someone says to him, I can't thank you enough. And he goes, it's funny you say that because I reckon so many people say that. And after this, I'll never hear another thank you again. I'm like, that's so right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start pulling people. I can't thank you enough. It's like, I bet you never thank me ever again.
Yeah. Well, they don't need to because they're saying it in that moment, I can't thank you enough.
But then if you're
I'm
being
really
truthful,
grateful. Like I'm extremely grateful.
Yeah, but then you keep coming back. You bring it up over. Oh, man, remember that time? Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for that. Yeah.
Yeah. But then it'd be a bit overkill.
Yeah, it would be overkill.
Like, you've thanked me enough now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I think when you said really found my feet, he's really found his feet. I was like, ooh.
You found your feet as a podcast host as well, mate. Well done. But Saturday, Arvo, your doggies, you've already pumped them up for no reason as well. But the Bulldogs are going out home against Titans, and they're the favourites.
Yes, Hasler back at Belmore. First time back in that room since end of 2017, where he ran the joint. He had the keys to everywhere. So really interesting to see. You know what, actually... I hope that Des gets a positive reception there because he did a lot for that football club and it wasn't always perfect. He didn't get every decision right. Maybe
tough ending.
the ending and the aftermath and the blame, there's an element that is, I guess, his fault. But time to move on. Took the club to 2 grand finals. I hope he gets the reception that he earned and deserves, in my opinion. But a big game. For and back. I think, for me, the Dogs aren't that far away. But again, it's that mental battle of, we know we're not that far away, but how much you're willing to keep committing and you don't get results. So I thought against the Sharks, they were so resilient. They start the game and your front row gets knocked out off the kickoff and then you defend your own line. Like, that's a tough start to any game of football, but with considering where the Dogs are at. So yeah, they've just got to hang in there, and it will come. And I know it's going to come. And I think some of the conversations around the joint are, we know we're not that far away, but you're coming up against the Titans that were dreadful against the Dragons. They've had a bye, knowing Des, like he will have been into them. Like it would have been information and overload of work. There's no work-life balance with Des. It is just work, work, work. So you've got to be prepared for that. And you've got to be, he'd have watched every single play that the Bulldogs have put on for the past 2 games and the trials and be throwing all sorts at them. And it would be led by Kieran Four, and he's
big in for them.
He's the Titans. Like, obviously, Tino and Mo Fodawaker. But if the Titans are going to score points and they struggle to convert field position into opportunities against the Dragons, it's going to come down to Kieran Four, and so he's the man to stop.
I know I give you shit about the Dogs, but I actually was really impressed with them Friday night against Cronulla. And I think if Kickout is awarded that try where the referee clashes with Braden Trindle, I actually think it's a completely different game.
So do I.
And I think the Bulldogs maybe could have caused the upset. But they do still have that same problem in attack where it feels a bit disjointed, or they don't quite know their identity in attack yet.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress, but I think we're starting to see more opportunities be created, especially on that left edge, which is the go-to edge. Like a lot of teams' left edge, it's the natural passing way. Subconsciously, teams shift the ball more to their left than their right. So, I think it's not that far away from clicking. And Charlie, I believe you. I know you're being sincere. You sent a text to the buy around WhatsApp group saying the Dogs look better here, they look impressive, and then you caveated that with like, just to make sure, and I'm not taking the piss either. So
because they lost by like 20 points. I didn't want you to think I was being sarcastic. Yeah, the Dogs look better.
Yeah, but I knew you were being sincere on the text, which is sometimes hard to tell. That's why you shouldn't take. It's very difficult. Language is important. How we use it, whether we speak face to face, on the phone, text. It is important. It's like the difference between know your shit and know your shit.
Yeah.
Do you know the difference?
Know your shit and know your shit? Not really. You lost me a bit there.
All it is a comma.
Right.
So
know your shit.
Know your shit or know your shit.
Yeah.
So know that you are shit.
Yes.
Or know your shit as in
fucking this sort of stuff. Talking.
So if I wrote that in a WhatsApp message to you, know your shit, you could take it as like, oh my shit.
Well, I probably wouldn't, because there's no's are spelled differently there, aren't they? N-O-K, N-O for no, and then K-N-O for no. O-W. K-N-O-W for no. Spelling, not my strong point.
Moving on. Bulldogs will get the victory at Belmont.
I'm with you, actually. I think the Dogs do win. Saturday, 5:30, then, Jimmy, it's the Dragons against the Cowboys, and Ben Hunt's found a way to make a couple of headlines again this week. Unfortunately, he's come out and said that Zach Lomax does want out of the Dragons. He's confirmed it. He's taken what was a media rumour, and he's rubber-stamped and said, this is official. Zach Lomax wants out of the Dragons.
No, I think it was already a matter of fact that he wanted out.
Oh,
he's asked for a release. It's confirmed yes for a
But
release.
Zach hasn't come out and said that.
No.
And so this is Ben Hunt's quote. Zach and I, we talk quite a bit. If he is unhappy, he is not really showing it, to be honest. I'm aware that he does want to leave, but he's not showing he's unhappy.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Probably whether or not you want to share that
You just
information.
don't need to be that honest. Like, Ben
so the coaches need to be honest, but Players don't.
Well, coaches don't need to be honest publicly. Like a coach can come out and talk up a player publicly. This is a public forum that these quotes have gone out.
No, I know what you mean. It's not ideal. And look, this story probably isn't going to go away until I think Zach probably needs to come out and address it.
Well, probably does now. He didn't need to.
It's probably hard because he doesn't want to tell the truth, and he's probably going to stumble on his words. And anybody that questions him and goes, "Hang on, is this true?" He's going to be. The likelihood of the situation is he does want to leave because he wants to play centre, but he doesn't want to talk about it. So that's just unfortunate. But I go back to that point. The Dragons need to win. If they allow him to go, bring someone in that can do a better job in a position that they need to strengthen. Simple as that. And that Flanagan won't accept anything other than that. He's just going to let him walk out the door. What sort of precedent does that set?
The only reason I reckon he would let him leave would be probably in the next off season because of the salary he's on. If another club's willing to take that full freight, because he's one of the highest paid centres in the game. Well, that's it. Which you don't want to be paying a winger that money.
No, well, that's it. You win by freeing up that money in the salary cap to then go and sign someone else.
Yeah. Again, if I was the captain of a club, I probably wouldn't come out and talk about something like this. Even if asked the question's really easy. I mean, you would know. Really easy, just play a straight bat.
Straight bat.
Actual game though, Dragons at home, the Cowboys. It's a complete 180. Their performance from round 1 to round 2, they looked atrocious against the Dolphins.
Bad time to play the Dolphins, though.
Yeah.
Bad time to play the Dolphins after their dismal performance against the Cowboys. But that said, the Dragons leaked a few that were not ideal, and Shane Fanning will be fuming about. Cowboys come down to Sydney. Again, not after their best performance. I think Peyton will be into them. Lukey out for a decent amount of time.
Big loss.
Like, he's such a good player.
Yeah. Gutted for him.
Yeah, still think they're probably going to go with the Cowboys on this one.
Yeah, Cowboys big favourites in this one as well. $1.30 on Ladbroke. So the bookies are fancying the Cowboys. Then Saturday night, the West Tigers against the Cronulla Sharks. It's been a weird week for the West Tigers. They had an article that came out talking about Benji's work ethic, and then another article has come back basically saying this is all Scott Fulton leaking this information. It's complete BS. We've actually got Shane Richardson coming on this Sunday. We're about to record him in about half an hour or so. So it'll be interesting to get his side of it.
Looking forward to that, Charlie. Last time you spoke publicly about one of our expected shows, it didn't end up happening. So
still waiting for a reply, Willie.
A little bit annoyed that you brought it up because, just can't hold your own water, can you?
But he's here, basically. He could be at the door now. He arrived early last time we had him on, so he might be here early again.
Hopefully he's not listening to this.
Yeah.
Tigers. Justin Olam comes into the team.
We haven't spoke. Sullivan dropped as well.
Yeah.
Well, not dropped, but put to the bench. Aiden Caesar starting.
Yeah, so Sullivan from the bench maybe might come on and play a little bit of 9.
Yep.
Maybe. Generally speaking, not a fan of an out-and-out half on the bench. I think that's the correct call. Look, it's a difficult one for the Tigers. When you speak in moments, you spoke about the Bulldogs and the kick out no try. I'd love to have seen that game down in Canberra played where the Tigers get to a kick on the end of their first set. Game kicked off, Canberra moved down the field, they're doing all right. Tigers get to play 5 and they mess up the kick, and that just sent them into free fall. I would love to have seen what would have happened if they had gone 50-50. That first 10 minutes, I think Raiders had 8 sets. Tigers had like 1, and it was that one they didn't complete. So awful start to a game. They fought their way back in. I think Canberra took their foot off the gas towards the back end of things, but look, the Sharks, I think they'll have too much. I really do.
And normally these sorts of games, the last couple of years, the Sharks just dominate the lesser team. So
T. Wilton, he's a fair edge backer.
It is at Leichhardt Oval, though, although it does look like Leichhardt Oval will be unable to host NRL games from 2025.
Why is that?
Just due to safety concerns. So unless there's a bit of redevelopment that happens, we could be seeing the end of Leichhardt Oval, which is a shame.
It is.
So you got the Sharks, you just said
the
there.
Sharks in that one.
Sunday, massive game. I actually think this will be the best game of the round, despite the Rabbitohs Roosters game being the most important game of the round. It's the Parramatta Eels against the Manly Seagulls.
In terms of quality, this is the best one.
Yeah.
From what we've seen so far, in my opinion. Obviously, Penrith Broncos, Souths Roosters, they're the headliners, but I think this Manly, they've surprised me this year. They've been awesome. Parramatta showed a lot of guts in their defeat against Penrith. They had very limited opportunities, but still came away with 3 tries in that first half. I fancy Manly in this one though. They'll be full of confidence, and this is my same game multi.
Okay.
So I've got Manly to win. I can't believe Power are favourites, by the way. I've got Manly to win, Kohler anytime try scorer, and over 41.5 points.
What's that paying on Ladbrokes?
I think it's like $8 something.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Well, what I will
it's
say.
over $8.
What I will say is,
go on, you keep
we
talking.
forgot to mention it last week, but we actually are going to go head to head on our same game multis.
Oh, we are.
You're 0 from 2 so far. I've only done the 1. I'm 0 from 1. So we're both 0%. But I mean, if I win, I'll be 50%. If you win, you'll be 33%. So, there will be a forfeit.
I don't understand why. Why am I?
Because you did a preview show with Cheese one week.
Oh, mate, that doesn't count.
So you're not counting that same game multi. No. Well, you're 0 from 2 so far.
Okay.
And maybe you'll be 0 from 3 after that bet, although I don't mind that bet. But I'm going to my same game on the next one. We've got to figure out a forfeit.
Well, we've got to figure out a minimum price as well.
No. The bet's the bet, because it can be overall.
No,
end
but
of
like,
it.
so say to that. Well, so
Like
for
a
this,
unit.
so for this example,
Yeah.
I'm going Manly to beat Para, over 41.5 points, and Kohler anytime try score. So it's $8.79.
Yeah, nice.
But I could take Kohler out and just say that would take it to $3.74,
Cool.
and that's okay.
If you want, yeah.
All right, so I'll just be a shit house and do
That's
easy.
So that's what you can do. Or you can actually tip winners and,
Yeah, well, don't put pressure on me. The public want
No,
they want value, they want
so-
everything.
Yeah, so you got to be bringing bets that you genuinely believe into the tables. Because right now, let's say every bet's $10, you're minus 20, I'm minus 10. So if we just ended the podcast right now,
I think
for the year,
yeah, I see where you're going.
I'm ahead of you by $10.
All right. Well, yeah, I've got Manly in this one. Should be, in terms of quality of opposition against each other, this is going to be awesome. And most fully fit as well. Like Roosters missing a couple, Souths missing a couple, Penrith missing a couple, Brisbane missing a couple. So this is why I reckon this is the game of the round.
Just quickly, Taniela Paseka's improvement as a player.
Oh.
What have you noticed?
What a performance he had! Like it's easier to have those types of games when you've got so much ball, but he was outstanding. He really was. He had a special effort on Sunday against Roosters.
And you've got Manly in this one.
Yeah.
Final game of the round then, Jimmy, and it's the Newcastle Knights against the Melbourne Storm. And amazingly, the Newcastle Knights are favourites. However, it is because Munster's out, Jerome Hughes is out. They
Welsh
pleaded guilty as well,
Oh.
which I know you're not happy about.
You've let us down there, Jerome Hughes and Melbourne Storm. You got to fight that shit.
Yeah. It was risky, though, because if they did fight it and lost, he would have been out until like round 6 because they got the bye in round 4.
You can't take that.
Yeah. And no Nelson, no Welsh. So they've got a few players
They're
out.
under the pump,
Yeah.
but I think Melbourne will have enough.
You reckon? I think the Knights might win this one at home. Changing the lineup.
I can see your point.
I've actually got a same game multi for this one. This is my same game multi on the Ladbrokes app, and you can get all your Jimmy's bets in the CUNY's page. And actually, we said it last week, but if you do put a bet in the CUNY's page and it gets up, you can have a chance to be the punter of the week and get a mention from Jimmy Graham each and every week. But my bet's a simple one, Jimmy. I think the Knights win, but I think they win in a close contest. I've gotten the winning margin 1-12, paying $2.85, and then I've thrown in anytime try scorer. He's been a little bit quiet to start the year, and I think he's going to have a massive game. Kalen Ponga, that's at $6.38.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good on you. Hey, we forgot to do Idiot of the Week.
Oh, yeah. Who is your idiot of the week then?
It will have to be the Travis sponsor fans. So losing against Fenerbahce in Turkey's highest tier of professional football, soccer, and their fans just came on and started like attacking the players. Like, they're my idiots of the week. So it's a collective.
I'll go Andrew Voss for criticising Josh Mansour, because I think it was taken so out of context, the way they portrayed it.
Yeah.
I think that was just to have a rugby league one. Why not him?
Okay. All right. Well, that just about wraps us up for Midweek Matters, Charlie. Hopefully your prediction of our guest comes. I've got to go and move my car in preparation and go and get my notes out the car. So, yeah, I look forward to that. Thanks for listening, everyone. Enjoy what is going to be another great weekend of NRL football premiership action.